It should come up live soon. Just waiting for it to go live, everybody, hopefully. Okay, we are live. Wow, here we go. Well, I just found this lady walking the streets and I said, hey, do you want to come in and help me have a bit of a chat today on this live? Well, that is a lie. I've invited this lovely lady, a good friend of mine and fellow practitioner, Alison Navarro, to come and help me, I guess, explain what the Relationship Masterclass is going to be about, because Ali's going to co-facilitate with me on that day and share her wisdom in that area. And I think between the two of us, we'll be able to create a really lovely picture of what we're trying to present to you as well.
Thanks, Maurice. Yeah, okay. I feel really honoured to be in this space with you.
Cool.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for turning up, because I know that this isn't necessarily the most comfortable space for you. All right.
Trying to regulate my system.
That's right.
Now.
And we'll talk about that as well. We'll talk about that. Yeah. So Ali is an occupational therapist. I met her while I'm still working at Queensland Health. Ali works in the alcohol and drug sector, and I was in alcohol and drug and mental health. So there was some correlation between the work that we were doing, especially with acceptance commitment therapy and other things. Yeah. One of the things that really tweaked my interest with Ali was not necessarily the drugs and alcohol, but more so numerology.
That's right. Yes.
Yeah, and so be talking about these numbers. And I had I was introduced to numerology many years ago, but you have such a huge understanding of it. I would actually call you a master, not that you would ever place yourself in that situation, but you have an extensive knowledge of it as well too. Also, you've done Reiki, massage, and are a very intuitive practitioner of aura-soma, or a new dropping into life now, I guess, which is colour.
It's colour. Simplistically, it's colour therapy.
Yeah, but much
so much more.
So much more
than
deeper than that. So if any of you are interested in any numerology or a soma, this is the person to talk to. Yeah, definitely.
Thanks, Maurice.
So we've been speaking about running a class around relationships for many years, and I thought this was a wonderful opportunity where we could get together and run it for you guys who are attending it. If you're not attending it and you're interested in the masterclass, then let me know. It's on the 26th of September, Saturday, 26th of September. It's a full day session. I think we're going from about 8 o'clock until about 4:30, and it'll be at the Calmness Centre. So let me know, and I can give you the details about that. Today we just wanted to go over, I guess, the agenda for it, but even for people who aren't attending it, I think you're going to get something out of this, because we're going to talk about particular theories and how they relate and intertwine with each other, and how important they are in relation to relationships. You know,
it's fundamental to have these understandings for secure and healthy relationships.
That's exactly right. And I've spoken to probably most of you before about the understanding that all we ever do is negotiate relationships within our lives. There's two people. It's self, and then there's others. So wherever I go, I'm always with myself, but then there'll be another self elsewhere. But I also want to extend that beyond to what's your relationship with life. And the work that we've been doing in the Empowering Mindset program was about you coming to an understanding of your relationship with life, the present moment, the past, the future, and then tapping into that space of you that we call consciousness, which is really the eternal part of you that exists between these transitionary, temporary physical lives that we have. So what the masterclass really is about is coming to understanding human behaviour in relationships, but then also utilising those theories in coming to a greater understanding of your relationship with life.
With life itself, yes.
Yeah. Because how you relate to yourself is how life relates to you.
Yes.
Yeah, because you and life are one.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. We are the... Yes.
Say it.
We are the creators of our own universe.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And you know, everybody on this channel is very much aware of that concept. How much you believe it, how much you practice it, how much you live it, that's a different thing. But you know, this is the message that I really want to share with the world, and we've got this wonderful opportunity to do it. Okay, so actually we're quite spoilt for experiences on the Masterclass day, because we've got young JJ coming in and doing some Qigong in the morning.
I'm really looking forward to that.
So JJ is a naturopath who also practices Qigong, so we're going to get some energy flowing using some mindfulness practices and starting to tap into our bodies very early on. That'll set the scene for the day. And then we'll go into a couple of theories. One is attachment theory, and the other one is circle of security. Now, it's a bit hard to say which one comes first, but they're very much closely related.
We probably may be doing circle of security first, just because it's something to understand from. So circle of security, basically, it's a visual model of attachment. So, and it happens right from infancy, but it also happens right across the lifespan. So when people have an understanding of circle of security, they then can have an understanding of how attachment is formed and how attachment is passed down from through the generations, from caregiver to caregiver. And when you can have a visual model of this, then you can see where your attachment style is and how that is being passed down to the children that you're caregiving for.
Yeah, so our parents will have their own attachment styles, and then the way that they even relate to their peers, but then the way that they relate to us then informs our attachment style with them.
That's right, and it happens in those formative years. Yeah. So it's something that can be shifted over time with awareness and with somebody else that is that holds that space for you. But those attachment styles are really it comes about in the first 3 years of one's life.
And the first 3 years is the formation of the brain terrain and how that's the mirroring neurons and how what my normalisation is, how I interact. Sort of thing. The brain essentially, when we are born, the brain's born fat, and so the brain is looking, what type of world am I going into? Is this an unsafe environment or is this a safe environment? And if it's a safe environment, then I'm going to put all of those neurons into, building those neurons into, this is the world that I am looking out for. Or if it's an unsafe environment, then this is the way that I need to protect myself to keep me safe. Yeah, and it's interesting because Albert Einstein said that the greatest decision that you'll ever make is whether you believe in a universe that is hostile and unfriendly or a universe that is friendly and supportive. And, not that you're consciously making that decision at that age, but really it's quite polarising in particular circumstances, that I just need to stay safe because of my environment, or I am feeling nurtured and supported and loved. Which then allows me to take risks because I am supported with that, and then I can then learn in a particular way rather than... And we know that when we're in a stress response, cortisol is released, and cortisol is quite toxic to the brain in relation to learning.
Yes, that's right.
So here
because we don't need our frontal prefrontal cortex or our cortex if we're in a dangerous situation. No. We just need to stay safe, and so...
which is interesting because it sort of feeds into that polyvagal theory that we're going to talk about later, that fight, flight, or freeze.
Or freeze response.
Yeah, which is something that we will discuss.
Or the social engagement system.
Or the social engagement system, yeah. Okay. So when we look at attachment theory, we've got pretty much 4 styles of attachment.
4 styles of attachment.
Yeah, so and we'll be going through that, and
we
we'll find
will
out our own.
Yeah, that's right. We'll
Yeah.
have questionnaires for you all so that you can discover, have an idea of where your attachment style might fit in, but also not only where things are at for you, but what you can do to be able to. Because the good news is that it doesn't mean that it's set in concrete. That this is one of the beautiful findings over the last decade or so, is that we used to think that once those neurons were formed, that was it, that's all you had. But now we understand that the brain is plastic and pliable, and that we are able to create change. So we are going to give you some information, some ideas, some tips on how to be able to shift you out of if there is an insecure attachment, how you might be able to shift that. So
I was listening to a podcast the other day, the one that I sent you around polyvagal, the uncensored therapist, and it was really interesting. On that, there was an episode talking about modern attachment theory. I went, oh, I wonder what that's about. And basically, they were saying that back in the day, we used to think that this was the attachment style that we had, and that's what
right.
we're stuck with.
Yes, and that's not
but you
true.
can shift that.
Absolutely,
yeah.
yes.
And I've done that, and you've seen that happening.
Yes.
I initially had an insecure, ambivalent attachment style with my primary caregivers, my mum and my dad, and for many, many years, really, in essence, probably ran a schema of abandonment, that ultimately people were going to leave me as my parents did in the beginning, because my first 3 years of 2.5 years of my age, my parents had I was born in the Philippines, and they left me in the Philippines with my uncles and aunties and grandparents. They lived in New Guinea, and then they came back and picked me up. Now, I had no idea that this happened until I was about 30. And it really just made so much sense of why I had continually been attracting particular people in my relationships, and why it was constantly ending up the same.
Yes.
Because ultimately I thought people were going to abandon me, so then I had to become in control of the abandonment. So then I'd allow people in, but when they got too close, I'd then ultimately push them away.
Yes. Yeah. It's all about survival. So at that point, it was such a crucial time in your life that your young brain wasn't able to handle it, to deal with it. So it manages it by then creating safety and forming that attachment style, and then which then continues right through the lifespan until you become aware of it. And as you say, you've been able to shift your attachment style into more secure attachment. And so I have a kind of similar story as well, in that and for many of you all, you would also be in that generation where children were to be seen and not heard. So for me, it wasn't, now we sort of can see it as potentially, you can recognize it as neglect, but, it was like, off you go in the morning and don't come back till it's dark, So, but, and this is where Circle of Security, it's such a basic model, but it helps you to understand the needs of a child and where they are on the visual map, and how it then forms their attachment. So for me, because the primary caregivers were not so much there, I then formed an avoidant attachment style, and it was my brain's way of keeping me safe, because my needs were not being met, and that then continues into my adult relationships, right through the lifespan until you become aware of it. And it takes effort, you still, once you become aware of it, you still, if you want to change that, you do need to put some effort into it, and that I have done, and have now feel that I have much more of a secure attachment. It still shows up. And because that's the foundations,
Which is interesting, because it's similar to the video that I just did around keep or delete.
Yes, so it is.
As we're moving towards creating a more secure attachment, or shifting our attachments, the old scripts keep on coming up and say, hey, this is served you in the past, it's
Yes.
kept you safe.
Yes.
Do you still want to use
Yes.
that? But if we don't see it from that perspective, we think, oh, I haven't changed.
Yes.
Here I go again.
Yes.
Or we don't even
And-
think, we just
or-
automatically
That's
do
right.
it.
If you don't recognise, thank you. Here is that old script again. What do I want from here? And then you can start to shift that and replace it with something else.
Powerful stuff, really powerful stuff. So we're going to talk about that and talk you through it, and you'll get to experience that yourself. You'll get to identify your own attachment styles, which can be enlightening but also quite provoking as well. When I found out what mine was, it was really, oh wow, that's amazing. And then I felt a lot of guilt because of, I guess in a sense, what I'd done or the way that I behaved. But I do believe that every action and behaviour that we do is reflective of our own self-awareness. So we can't necessarily blame ourselves.
Or our caregivers either.
Or our caregivers, that's right, for something that they did.
In order to keep them safe.
That's right. And it was reflective of their own self-awareness.
That's right.
No malice intended, but ultimately it's a safety mechanism.
That's right.
Wow, really powerful stuff. Looking forward to that. We'll then talk about the concept of rupture and repair, which really is part of
circle of security.
Yes.
But we'll extend on that.
Yes, yeah, and some of you who've worked with me, all of you who've worked with me, we've spoken about rupture and repair in relation to interpersonal relationships and intrapersonal relationships too, and that rupture isn't bad, repair isn't good. It's rupture actually promotes resilience.
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah.
It's important. It does create resilience. We actually need to have those because to learn from it.
Sure.
Without that, then we go out into the world and we have exposure to other people, and we don't really know how to handle that. So,
and I guess even too, if we're starting to look at the law of attraction and even the law of one, we're looking at rupture as contrast
that's
as well as catalyst.
Yes.
Growth. So here's an
opportunity,
opportunity for growth through catalyst. And with the work that we've done, how can I be grateful for discomfort? Because the discomfort is causing a rupture within me, and it can be large or small. But the gratitude for it can actually be part of the repair process. It can also be part of the growth, and I'm also tapping into gratitude as well. So it's a really interesting extension of it as well. Yeah, okay, cool. Then we're going to introduce polyvagal theory. Now, this is something that is quite new to me. Ali's been researching it for a good while now, and seeing how it relates to you personally, and I guess that's where most of us really start to look for these.
That's right.
And research stuff because
we want to understand ourselves.
Yes. Yeah. Now, with the polyvagal theory, you will be familiar with the triune brain, or the three brains, and that would have been the second session or the first session that we ever did. Remember the reptilian, mammalian, and prefrontal cortex. So information flows into the reptilian part of the brain, which is really looking at it as a threat or opportunity. When we look at polyvagal, it's in essence probably a bit more information around the reptilian part of the brain and how we either react or respond to what we perceive as threat.
Yes.
And even from what we've spoken about with attachment theories, circle of security, this is a safety mechanism.
It is.
However, there's three types of ways that we interact with this, isn't there?
Yes, there's three types. So evolutionary. This is an evolutionary approach and understanding of the neurobiology, and essentially we're constantly scanning for either threat or danger or safety. So is this person, is this environment, is this interaction between us, is this a threatening situation, or is this a safe situation? There is so the polyvagal theory was brought about by Dr. Stephen Porges, and it fits in with our fight-flight and also our freeze response, but there's a third component of this, which is then the social engagement system, and how we, when we feel safe, then we are able to socially engage with other people.
Yeah.
how we interact with the world, how we see, and then how we see that life. As you said in the beginning, it's that how fundamentally do we see that life is full of growth and opportunity, or do we see it as an unsafe place to be?
Yeah. Okay. And primarily why we wanted to bring this into the relationships is because we all have relationships, and sometimes there's conflict between those relationships. There's a mismatch between the information that we're receiving and we're giving between our values. Where there's that conflict, we can naturally react, and when we react, the other person can react as well.
Yes.
Through health and psychology, we have a concept of holding space. So when we hold space for people, we're not reacting. We're noticing that somebody, in a sense, is dysregulated, or they're aroused, or they're activated in whatever way it is. They're stressed out. When I can hold space for them, and as you were saying, I think there's some needs that aren't being met.
That's right. So unless we're feeling safe and we're connected, and in which state we feel confident and we can open our heart, and so unless we are in that state, then we are either in those other two states, which means that essentially there are unmet needs. And how can we look through what is the needs that are needing to be met for that person, rather than being reactive and responsive in a way that is now triggering my fight, flight, or freeze response.
Yeah. So this is a really good understanding of how we react or respond in conflictual situations. But also seeing how someone else is reacting or responding, and being that space for them. We can also then flip it back to ourselves. Not that we need to be with anybody, and we can get quite dysregulated ourselves by a conversation, by seeing something, even a memory, how we can then potentially hold space for ourselves.
That's right.
Well.
So it's about finding the resources, the resources that you have within and externally as well. But the first part of this is having awareness. What state am I in? What is going on in my system? Because there's a big concept of this called, and Stephen Porges coined it as neuroception, which is beneath awareness. It's not perception, it's not awareness, it's just... so we don't necessarily always know what the trigger is for us, but it's about recognizing what's going on in my system, what's happening here, and then being able to identify what resources do I have to be able to shift that state.
So Eckhart Tolle would talk about that as the pain body.
Yes.
Yep. And even Aaron Abke would speak about we're always leading with our body. Actually,
with
our
the body.
bodies.
Yes.
We're just passengers.
Yes.
Unless we then become aware.
That's right.
And then we can then start to direct with our intention.
Yes.
Whereas,
which goes back to our points before around attachment. Once you become aware, that's why I act and react in the way that I do, and this is what I can do about it, then we can start to shift that story. We can start to shift the narrative. We can start to shift our responses and reactions.
So I need to be for me to change something, I first need to acknowledge that I need to change something.
Well, yes, you need to recognise it, and
so that's when mindfulness is quite it's an essential skill of becoming aware. But that conscious awareness, not just automatic sort of awareness. Okay, cool. I'm looking forward to that one. I've still got a lot to learn around that one. And then we'll finish off the day with the concept of intimacy. So intimacy is really interesting because there's quite a few domains of intimacy. There's physical, emotional, intellectual, and spiritual intimacy. And we'll look at those and see how we are intimate with ourselves in that way, see how that intimacy transfers to others, and then once again, the intimacy with life. And everything that we're we're presenting to you is, as much as it's a relationship masterclass between us and somebody else, it's more so, well, really, but it encompasses everything. Because I don't think we can go, oh yeah, relationships are between me and somebody else, or it's just me.
No.
It's me, somebody, or another self.
Yes.
And then life, and through our conversations that you would have that we would have had over the period of time, coming to that understanding of, I wonder what life's going to place upon my path today that will bring me to a greater awareness of self and others. And so I think really looking forward to spending this time with you. If you don't get the opportunity to come to it, even just listening to this, hopefully you would have got some stuff out of it. And there's plenty of research, there's a volume of research, and libraries of research around all of these concepts that we've spoken about. And these are psychological concepts that have been researched, proven, re-researched, and there's constantly new information coming out about it. We just want to put it into a context that is relative and relatable. And also, not just, hey, here's these concepts, good luck, this is what you can then do with it. Right. So there's some elements and some strategies.
Yes. So something that you can apply to your own life to help you with, not only for your understanding, but to shift and help you in your relationships to come.
And you get to role model it, you get to then teach it, and then that's how you then create those ripples. And then that goes out. Because remember, our attachment style was very much impacted by the attachment style of our primary caregivers. Most of you do have children and have opportunities to interact with younger people and also other relationships. So here you are becoming aware of how much you can impact others as well through your own awareness. Pretty powerful, huh?
It is powerful.
Yeah, sweet. Why hasn't anyone else done this?
I don't know.
I think there's another conspiracy in that one. All right. That's us. Thank you very much. Love having conversations with you, and just the interplay that happens between them. And I think that you certainly underestimate your knowledge. But if when I'm okay, so what do you reckon about that? And then it's just this wow, and it's just such a building of knowledge too. And I think there's that reciprocity that sits with that. So yeah. Thank you for sitting with me. Thank you for sharing it with these lovely people. And it'll be a beautiful day. So if you're interested, let us know, and we can try and get you along. All right. Okay. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, Valerie.
Okay.
Bye bye. I'll see you next week.